step in the room, I set the vibe. Mic in my hand, I let it ride.
Welcome back to another episode of Speak Like the Boss podcast. I'm Anthony. This is Chase. Another week.
Another week
in the books.
Another week.
We've got spicy topics. We've got a lot of anger and hate in our hearts, and
Let it out.
we're ready to belch fire. What's new this week?
So I saw a girl on a dating app profile that I went to high school with. Very quiet girl, very beautiful girl, super tall. She's probably touching 6 foot, if not like
Dang.
right at, yeah.
Okay.
She got a scholarship to play sports and all that. Without being too specific.
Okay.
She was very soft spoken. I don't think she dated anybody in high school, but she ended up getting knocked up in college, and so she's got a kid.
Yeah.
But I saw her on the dating app, and she had this quote in her bio, and I just I just had to laugh.
Hello, everybody joining on TikTok. Go ahead.
Respectfully, not here for the 5-something kings out there.
Okay. Okay. A 5-something.
In other words, you got to be 6 foot or taller.
Six and above to ride this ride.
It's just funny to me. Like, I get it, you're tall, but
she's extra. For her, I actually understand it more than a girl who's 5'4".
But you're still a single mom touching 30, if not already 30.
But she just started her wind down phase.
Oh, fuck bullshit.
This is the beginning of her search. She's got 10 years now.
It's just so funny to me. Even if you think you deserve something above average or uncommon,
right?
Putting something like that in your bio, it just screamed to me anyway. Maybe this is just me being short and being irritated about it, but
sure.
To me, that just, I don't know. And that screams like pompous, unreasonable.
Pompous.
Yeah. It rubbed me a certain kind of way. I thought it was kind of funny. So I figured I'd
share the story.
Yeah.
So kind of ties into a little bit of today's episode, but not really. We're focusing a little bit more on the women's side of things this week. What we've got in store is we've got some statistics pulled up based on marriage censuses for the U.S. as well as antidepressants and just a whole bunch of things that we're going to be talking about just on the rise. So overall thoughts before we jump into specifics?
Oh, boy. This is going to be a fun one.
So I'm going to read, just to start, 2 statistics, and we're going to just discuss those and start there. So we'll start with the first one. I kind of reversed the order here because I like it better this way. But so this comes from the National Center for Health Statistics.
Okay.
1 in 4 women aged 40 through 59 in the U.S. is on antidepressants.
Okay.
So we can speculate why the age is between 40 and 59. But one of the things that I did do my side research on that I know for certain is a reason is premenopausal. Cause higher depression rates in women, and that's about that age range that happens, right? So I give benefit of doubt for that. But as we start looking at the other statistics that I have here, we're going to see that there's other contributing factors. The second stat to start this off is women, as of, let me tell you where the stat came from first. In 2020, the CDC released this. So women are prescribed antidepressants twice as often as men. That's the alarming stat.
Why is it alarming though?
So this has come out obviously in 2020. So this is pretty recent. It's during the COVID era. There's a lot of things that were obviously going on during that time that would cause people to be more depressed than usual, but women specifically more than men.
So I'll give you a couple of theories I have. Okay. Well, I guess
shoot the theories first. Let's start there.
May not be theories. They may just probably just true, but we'll say without anything statistically to back them up, we'll call them theories.
Okay.
So women are by far and large more likely to go see a therapist. I think more men these days are going to therapists than ever before, but more people in general are going to see therapists ever before.
Okay.
at least in my experience and from what I kind of see, kind of doing research and things like that and looking at these things statistically week to week, overwhelming majority of people going to therapy are women.
Yeah. Now, just to play devil's advocate, do you think it's because they are more inclined to be in their feelings, or maybe just that they're more inclined to seek professional help than a man is because he's more determined to figure it out by himself?
We'll say both.
Okay.
The first one, it's hip to be in your feelings and, have some kind of tism or issue associated with you, right?
Sure.
And to quote unquote embrace it. I think more so for men, it's not that that they will kind of try to deal with it on their own, but I mean, at least growing up, I was taught you find someone older who you trust, that you can confide in, that has experience, that almost has, at least, you would hope, has a vested interest in your well-being, right? Someone who knows you. And I'll get into it more later, but the idea of going to a stranger to help me fix my issues is just...
It's not something that a man normally goes to as his first fix, right?
No, and that's just baffling to me, especially because this person doesn't know you, right?
Right.
Yeah,
No, of course, right. So just going back for everybody here, very quick stats: 1 in 4 women, 40 to 59 in the U.S. on antidepressants from National Center of Health statistics, and then women are prescribed antidepressants twice as often as men. This comes from the CDC in 2020. So we're just diving into these two here. Based off what you said just now, I do think that's obviously an interesting fact. If we find that 1 in 4 between the ages of 40 to 59, and then also the fact that women are prescribed it twice as often, we're having camera issues, Dalton, as far as why he can't see us both. Unfortunately, he's asking.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
TikTok Live Studio will not allow you to connect to multiple streaming services at once. So the one we use to typically record these sessions is we're gonna have to figure out how to get both online at the same time.
Yep. I'm gonna do some fixing this week and get maybe a tripod or just he says, can you push us back? We probably can. Here, if you just try throwing it up there. I won't be able to read the comments from further away, but you can stick it up there so we can see you guys at least, and just stick it in front of the TV there. Maybe by the remote, it should stand it up. You know what I mean? Just angle it and just lay it against the TV. No. The other way. It's front camera. You're showing them nothing. You can get rid of the comments so that we can see the angle. Now the chair is going to be in the way, though. Jeez. To the left. Slide it that way. This is all in real time. There you go.
There we go.
Is the chair in the way? There you go. Keep sliding. Yeah. So the chair's out of view. And I'll just scoot over. All right, I think that's better. That works. That's a little better. We'll figure it out for next week so that this was a little bit more impromptu. So we're kind of, figuring it out as we go here. But so I won't be able to read comments, but I will read those comments after the stream is over, and I will get back to you guys if I need to individually. But yes, so what we are kind of discussing here is I'm seeing the correlation just from those two stats, right? The first one's being 1 in 4 women aged 40 through 59 in the U.S. on antidepressants, and then twice as many as men being on it. That's showing me that there is a problem for women, that they become more depressed between 40 through 59 and have a higher likelihood of that happening than men do between 40 and 59.
Right.
Okay. And we'll get into why, and we can all speculate those reasons, I'm sure. But some of these other things that we have pulled up here is going to be that. So possible causes. First thing we'll go into is increased awareness and acceptance of mental health treatment. So I put that in there just for devil's advocate purposes, right? So what do you think?
I mean, it's good and bad.
Yeah.
The bad being that people are more likely to go, like I said, to a complete stranger for advice.
Sure.
Whereas before you would speak to someone who was in your circle, who knew you, right? Who was preferably older, had more experience than you. it was accomplished enough that you would trust the advice that they would give you, right? Ideally, someone who had a vested, like if I think back to all the people that have mentored me in my life,
Yeah.
they had a vested interest in my well-being, right? Whether it was for, work purposes, or they were just a part of my life and, it just worked out that way.
Right.
Random therapists could also have like their own agenda.
Okay.
And I know that sounds kind of conspiracy theorist, but the idea is that yeah, you could come see me as a therapist, right? And you and I could have two completely different outlooks on life. Sure. And so, like, let's say I'm a feminist, right? But you're not.
Okay.
Well, if that's how I understand the world and I know how to explain things and that's what I preach to you, right? It's going to be, one, it might be hard for you to grasp those concepts because you're not that kind of person.
Right.
But two, I think more so for women, even if they aren't in that influenced in that way already, they're going to lean more towards what their therapist says because it makes them feel good about themselves, right?
That's what I worry about when I hear people going to therapists, or even like relationship counseling and things of that nature. Is you're bringing an outside source who doesn't really know either of you two into a relationship to butt in. And if they have a bias of any kind that you can't, pre-find out going into that interview with that person, they're going to lean towards whoever that is. You know what I mean? They may influence your wife or significant other to believe a certain way. And now you have a 2-on-1 argument, which is far harder to go against when they're pointing fingers and saying, well, this is the professional licensed person that sides with me, so you're clearly wrong.
Yeah.
Right.
Speaking to relationship counseling, I don't have like a study to point to specifically here, but I'm pretty sure that people who go to female couple therapists versus male therapists for relationship issues, by far and large, going to see the woman ends more in divorce than seeing a man.
I believe that. Because I'm sure since they have that degree under their belt, they're also probably in the mentality of, I'm a boss babe and we can do what we want. And, women empowerment, and they're going to push somebody in that direction.
I think it's also dangerous in general, just because with everything else, you have people who they read an article or two, or they think it's interesting, so they listen to other like professionals or experienced people talk about it, and then they think that they have experience or are somewhat of a, we won't say expert, but they think that they have
a better grasp
they think
on,
that they're qualified to talk about it, right?
Sure.
And I more so thought about this in a sense of like being in a relationship.
Yeah.
Have you ever dated women who are either into psychology or studied psychology?
No, luckily, but it's probably a headache, I can imagine.
So
I'm trying to figure out the best way to do this. But
a lot of what I have gotten in my personal life in that regard is they are painfully aware of their issues.
Yeah.
And they can articulate what those issues are.
Okay.
But then that becomes their crutch for why they treated you a certain way, right? Or why they did a certain thing.
Well, I have depression, or I have.
So I'll give you a non-dating example.
Sure.
I have a group of friends who their wives hang out with us occasionally, and most of their wives are great people and good to be around.
Yeah.
And one of them, while she's not a bad person, we just put up with her because we respect the guy.
Got it. And
multiple times now, I have made a comment about something stupid, like a sports team is bad or something. And she has taken it up the ass so hard that she's like yelling at me and about to blow a blood vessel, like if it were like screaming, yelling, just unreasonably upset over this. Like if it's a dude, you're thinking like there's about to be a fist fight kind of thing.
Right. So
I'm just like, what makes you think it's okay to talk to me like that? Well, I have anger issues and I feel my emotions and all. And I'm like, I don't give a fuck.
If she talks to you like that and you're like a stranger or just like an acquaintance, she definitely talks to her man like that, and 10 times worse.
He doesn't put up with that shit. I know he doesn't. But I seriously, like, I asked her last time, I'm like, why do you think you can talk to me like that?
Yeah.
Like, I straight up told her, she's like, I straight up told her, I said, I think I laughed last time, and that really set her off because I laughed at her.
Of course.
And I'm like, okay, I can laugh at you, or I can get upset and match your energy. What would you prefer? Because, like, if you're a dude right now, we're stepping outside and we're going to handle this.
Right.
Like, notice how no one else here talks to each other like that, you know? So, but it's that kind of situation where they think they can articulate why they act that way. And instead of correcting it,
because they've been giving words verbatim as like almost like a script of these are your possible problems, causes, and effects. So you can literate this to somebody and get pity.
well,
I guess is there's one way.
There's a culture of embracing our issues instead of learning how to fix them, right?
That's true.
If you and I are out with a group of people and somebody loses their shit like that over something stupid, like another man's going to say something, right? And we're going to be like, hey, are you okay? Like, do you need to go? Or, you know, if you don't calm down, like something bad could happen, right?
Yeah.
Men more so will hold each other accountable, whereas at least stronger men. But in my experience, women definitely will use that as like a crutch instead of realizing it's an issue and how to fix the problem.
So one of the other possible causes that I have written down here, social pressure, which could be social media. It could be pressure from other women or their friends. It could be one of the other things, work stress, which obviously is a new phenomenon for women in the last 50 to 100 years, right?
I got a hot take.
They're working nowadays than they weren't in the past, and changing relationship dynamics, which we've talked about on multiple other shows, but we'll dabble in it again. So those three things specifically, social pressure, work stress, changing relationship dynamics, I think is a lot of the primary root cause that they're being influenced to be less happy later in life because they're told to live their life a specific way when they're young, and then they aren't told about what the outcome's going to look like when they turn 40.
Mm-hmm.
And they're alone, or they don't have children, they don't have a family, and now it's too late. And their overall value, without lack of another word, even though it's not a monetary value we're talking about, their value as a woman or in a relationship setting has gone down. That's
marketplace value.
Sexual marketplace value. So,
I definitely think that women entering the workforce, not all women, of course, but just by far and large, focusing on a career and entering the workforce as opposed to starting a family was definitely bad for relationships.
Yeah. So one of the bigger things that I wanted to jump into, because this is probably going to be one of our longer topics here, is declining interest in marriage. So this, I'm sure we're going to take a lot of time on, but tying into the first two stats that we read, the U.S. marriage rate has declined by 60% from the 1970s. And that comes from the National Center for Family and Marriage Research. So 60% decline in the last 55 years, basically. So if you think 60% down, what is that? How many people are there in the U.S.? 13 billion something? Maybe I'm off by a billion. I don't know. Something like that, right?
I looked it up for
your purpose
comments last week. And
okay.
I forgot.
You forgot.
Exactly,
okay.
Yeah.
Fair enough. I don't remember either, but
it's a few billion.
If you think of that number and then take 60% of that away, we're talking billions and billions of people that are not getting married.
Yeah.
Right. In 2022, just a couple of years ago, there was a study done by Pew Research. Only 19% of young women between the ages of 18 to 24 said that they saw marriage as a top priority, which is down from 35% in 2000. So we've dropped total of 16% in 20 years for girls between 18 to 24 thinking that marriage was a good idea. And this is all correlating together. So if you have girls between 18 to 24 who are just hitting their prime that are like, I don't need marriage, I don't need this, I don't need that, I'm just going to live my life. And then all of a sudden we have a new bracket of women between 40 through 59 that are on more antidepressants than ever before, there's something going on here that is correlating these two together, right?
Yeah.
So this is for all the haters that have been in the comments that like to argue useless facts or be delusional and not see reality for what it is, or white knight or simp or any other word that you can think of to come out of the gate just ready to fight and with an argument. These are facts. These are actual research studies that have been done. And I need you as the viewer to take your emotions and put them aside and rationalize what I'm telling you. These are real things that are happening. These are real stats. And we need to just accept it as a reality and understand that just because I'm on here and it's two guys doing a podcast and there's no 36 women behind us agreeing with me, that we still know what we're talking about. We don't need a woman to come in and emphasize our points to make it true. What do you have on it before I keep going?
Oh, well, just to your point, I mean, you can look at other not Western, you can look at other first world countries that are further along than we are in at least recognizing this issue.
Sure.
You look at Japan, China. Of course, China has a lot of other issues.
Yep.
But Japan specifically is a fairly free country, and they're dealing with the issue now that we're going to have in the next 20 to 30 years, where they cannot repopulate enough.
Right.
They cannot replace the current population with their current birth rates because people aren't getting married. They're prioritizing work. In certain areas, it's becoming too expensive to live.
Yep.
Men are less incentivized to marry and be with women.
That I didn't even put on here. So why is marriage rates going down, right? A good mixture between what you just said. Men don't have a viable reason to marry anymore. Mm-mm. They have a lot to lose and very little to gain. And they're also not wanting to marry a specific type of woman that is not going to provide what they're looking for provided to them. A man's life is hard enough to begin with that they don't need a woman at home nagging them and driving them crazy. And
also, she can take half your shit in 10 years.
That's a whole nother side of it, right? Is obviously if you get married and then splitting resources and things like that, if the dynamic is messed up in the first place. A lot of these girls, the problem is if you ask a woman before you're married, before they're in a relationship, just ask a generic woman that you find on the street, okay? Do they want to pay 50-50? Or do they want the man to pay the bills?
Almost 100% are going to say, I want the man to pay the bills.
Okay. Now, with that being said, most people in America, I'm not talking about other nations. I have to do research on that before I can speak on other nations, but I'm sure a lot of the egalitarian countries are similar financially. Most men cannot afford to do that unless you're a top earner making six figures plus, and also depending on where in the nation you're living, right?
Yeah, mostly depending on where you're living in the nation. But
Sure.
A lot of other first world countries, the cost of living isn't near as exorbitant as it is in the US just yet. So, or I should say North America.
Right.
Because Canada is apparently pretty bonkers.
So it's still possible.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, still possible for the average guy.
So with that being said, if you, let's just say as a normal, typical guy, an average Joe that's working a regular job, you're an electrician, you're a plumber, you're a cop, you're a firefighter, you're not making six figures, most of them. Okay?
Not without a lot of extra jobs.
Sure. Right. And overtime and whatever else that you're killing yourself to do. If you're that guy and you have a stable, steady career, but you cannot provide what a woman is looking for, does that rule you out of being married altogether?
Okay, so
let's in just that one bracket of finances, right? Without everything else.
It shouldn't, but in today's world it is, right? And I'll tell you why. The flip side of what you were just talking about, how men just are de-incentivized to get married.
Right.
Women are also taught to be de-incentivized, right?
That's the other side of it that I was going to get into. Yeah.
Think of it like this.
Yeah.
If you've got, let's say you've got two women at home, right? You pay all their bills and they cook, they clean, they'll give you blowjob sex whenever you want, right?
Okay.
They listen to you. They do everything you ask them to.
Sure.
And then you go to the club and you start hitting on a girl, and she's like, "Oh, I don't know. You're gonna have, you're gonna have to work for it and all this kind." You're not gonna want to talk to that girl because she's gonna make you work for it. Why would you do that when you've got two fine girls at home who'll do everything you want already, right?
Sure.
Women are the same way. They're working for the man now, right? They got jobs, they got money.
That's true.
So they're like, "Oh, I'm making money. So why the hell would I listen to you if we're on a similar level? Unless you are that guy and you are just making that much more money. Like, you have to make a lot more money than them.
You either have to make that kind of money or have that kind of swagger or aura about you that shows that you're a domineering kind of man that can just take control and have a girl listen to when it's not about money and resources.
Even then, I think it's going to be
difficult.
Tough.
It's not. I'm not saying it's easy. There's a very specific guy that can do something like that.
Even then, without the money, it's going to be very difficult.
Yeah.
To I don't want to say control, but to have a woman listen to you in that way,
to have a presence where your opinion and your I don't know, your thoughts and your output on a certain situation matters more than hers does. Yeah. Right.
But the idea is like, why make my own money now? Why do I need you? Yeah. Right. Which is hilarious because you always hear about, like, I'm ranting a little bit, but you hear about this, the whole independent boss babe thing. That's so funny to me because what do those chicks say? I got a job. I pay my own bills. I got a car. I this, that, and the other. Yeah. How many centuries have dudes been doing that shit? Well, I guess not centuries for cars, but
sure.
Generations. Dudes have been working, paying for homes, paying for cars, supporting a family.
The difference is, for all these years,
you're nothing special. Though.
You're nothing special. You're just doing the same thing that we've all done for forever.
You're just getting
since the dawn of time.
You're just getting a participation sticker, like, "Hey, go you."
No, right. So imagine if men had the same outlook hundreds of years ago. Because I don't need a woman. I'm already working on my own, and I can pay all my bills without her. What the fuck do I need her for? They would all be dead and homeless.
Yeah.
But biologically, we're designed to want to protect them. We want to provide for them, want to have sex with them, right? Yeah. That's the biggest thing. We have a higher desire because of our testosterone to lust for them that most women don't have in reciprocating. And I think that's the biggest factor that's throwing it off. If a man gets money, he's still going to chase a girl. Where a woman gets money, she's doesn't care half the time. She may want one eventually, but she doesn't care enough to actively pursue every weekend.
Right. If she's getting attention in other ways, yeah, you're 100% correct.
Sure. Going into that, we talked a lot about marriage now. Let's talk a little bit about social media. So comparison culture seeing. So what a perfect relationship online creates versus unrealistic expectations.
Oh, yeah.
So dumbing that down for everybody. Basically, all social media is fake. I've had this conversation with people, okay, in person, actual women, where I'm like, you have to understand that just because you're scrolling all day and you're seeing this couple do this or that vacation go here or they're out doing so-and-so, you're seeing snippets of their actual life. You're not seeing the day-to-day. You're not seeing what they look like in the morning the next day after they drank all night. You're not seeing the hangovers. You're not seeing the arguments. You're not seeing the difficulty with the kids. You're not seeing little Timmy come home after wrecking the car because he took it out last night. You're not seeing all of the extra crap. You're seeing what they want you to see. And that's why you think that relationship is perfect, because it's fake. It's a narrative that they are portraying to you online, just like a TV show. Women fail to think about this stuff, and they just see it and always think that they can do better because they can have that lifestyle.
Or they should be able to have that lifestyle or be with that kind of man, right?
Yes.
Well, I deserve that. I'm a 10. I'm a baddie.
Sure.
And no.
I mean... That's a whole nother thing, but we can get into that at the end. But just how people portray themselves and overinflating their own egos. We can definitely add that to the list of something to talk about here. But So comparison culture, I think that's just it's a recipe for destruction. I have seen on far too many occasions the moment a woman checks out in real life, even if it's for like a minute to 2 minutes, the first thing that they do is open their phone and start scrolling. They're looking for some sort of stimulation, right?
Well, I mean,
so they're constantly being fed false narratives all day, whether it be through TikTok videos, it be through short reels of some kind, whatever it is, they're looking at things that are going to influence their mentality. And obviously these things all have algorithms. So if they find one video that shows them, oh, this is something that I like, or I watched for a minute and a half, now it's going to show you 10 more that are similar and have a similar mindset. Right.
Oh, well, and women are by far and large the more impressionable sex. Most marketing is geared towards women.
That's true.
Most women hold the debt despite making less money. Right.
That's
true. Women are also higher in neuroticism, whether they want to hear it or not. It's true. It just, so
a little more temperamental, right? But for biology reasons, nothing that you can control. You have periods, you have hormones, you have imbalances.
The period thing's a Western thing.
I know, but listen,
bullshit. But anyway, I'm gonna get hate for that one.
You're gonna get all the hate for that one.
That's good. Bring it. But no, so they're just setting themselves up to fail, right?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, they definitely are. One of the other things with social media, empowerment narratives make women feel independent and prioritize personal growth over traditional marriage. So basically, everything that's empowering women, whether that be a music video, whether that be a TV show, whether that be, God, I turned on Netflix and about like every 10 to 20 movies, just watching through the trailers, is all about women empowerment or some sort of narrative. They're pushing either the rainbow community or they're pushing there's always something. There's nothing that you could just turn on anymore that's a new westernized movie that just is its thing. It's a script and it's a movie and it has a purpose and an ending. They don't exist. They all have an underlying narrative. It's ridiculous.
It's like the South Park episode. put a woman in the lead and make her lame and gay.
I mean, it's crazy, but that's them focusing more and more on this is what is influencing young people to grow up and underestimate what a traditional relationship and just marriage and a normal romantic relationship can have and be, right? You look at the old Disney movies from the 40s and the 30s and 50s, and the narrative was there. It was simple. It was man, woman fall in love, happy ever and after, right? That was the ending. That was the whole thing.
You would have dudes like knocking the shit out of women, and then in the next scene, they're like making out or whatever, and oh, it's so romantic. It's like crazy shit.
This is side tangent real quick, but thinking back, when I was a kid, I seen Beauty and the Beast when it was in theaters when it came out. Okay.
Yeah.
Showing my age a little bit.
Yeah.
But with that being said, I thought about it. It's still similar to the old vein of the movies, but Belle did not know that the Beast was a prince the entire movie.
Yeah.
So she was fully ready to have bestiality.
Yeah, it was a furry thing. Yeah, 100%.
And I didn't grasp that as a kid because I didn't understand. I'm just waiting for the magic moment where he turns back into Prince. But she did not know the entire movie.
I thought about it, obviously not from a sexual perspective, but like innocently, like she's falling in love with an animal. This is like Sasquatch.
This is a little weird.
Yeah,
it's a little weird. I mean, she's probably had a couple pet dogs prior to that instance. You know what I mean? Like, just saying.
Licking.
Wasn't her first time at the donkey show.
Feeding him peanut butter, huh?
Something. Just a little strange.
Yeah. So going back to the empowerment narratives, it kind of goes back to what I just said about the independent boss babe thing.
Yeah.
A chick who makes $50,000 who's drowning in bills, but she has a car and she's keeping herself afloat. You go, girl. That you're a baddie like that. Right. But then a dude who makes $50,000, he could have money in savings. He could be investing, in the stock market and have a decent portfolio and a paid off car. But he's probably invisible unless he's really tall or very handsome. and or very handsome, right? It's like it's just there's such an unrealistic narrative, we'll say, set for women growing up to think that doing all of these things makes them special, and yet when a guy does it, it's like it's nothing. It's either expected or you're
not it anymore.
Yeah,
you're on to the next, right?
Yeah.
I mean, so getting to that topic, since we kind of skipped over it and kind of went around it, why prioritize personal growth for a woman over marriage? If you're a woman and you just turned 18, what's the purpose? I understand. I think the only logical perspective that I get from it is I don't want to rely on somebody that could potentially walk away and then I have nothing. And I get that side of it a little bit. You want to have a backup plan, right? I do. Because anything can happen. That person could pass away, right? You want to be able to fend for yourself as an adult.
Well, sure, but my argument is, why are you worried about that if you can show proper discernment and pick a good person?
Again, if they pass away or something, right?
Well,
there's always
but that's,
things you can't control, right?
That's such a small.
That's true. It is a small percentage, right?
It's like that we're not even.
Then you figure it out at that point, right?
Yeah, and that's a complete extreme, right?
Sure, that is true.
Most men are good men. You could pick a good man and settle down and live a fairly comfortable life and be happy, right?
Yeah.
You just have to not rack up a bunch of bodies.
And I don't say go turn 18 and just go and find somebody to put a ring on your finger. I'm more or less saying at 18, find balance. Any good father should impart this on their daughter and let them know that this is your prime. These next 6 years, 18 through 24, you're never getting these back. This is the best years of your life. This is when you're going to look the best, feel the best, act the best. But that's up to you to do. You see what I'm saying? Like, if you don't do this, these could be some of the worst years of your life and you can lose everything. So it's up to you. And I know it's a lot of pressure for a young 18-year-old girl who's just getting out of high school and trying to figure out the world. But you have to understand that balance is the key. Yes, go continue your education, continue doing what you're doing, get a job while you're searching. But understand that you have to put in the work and also search. Don't just ignore it. Don't just look to have fun, rack up a bunch of bodies, right? All of the things that modern women do at this point is wait until they're 30 plus, right? Before they even start worrying about marriage. All of those things are what's detrimental to their mental health, to their physical health, overall happiness later on in life with no children. I say physical health because obviously being able to have children in the later years. There's a lot of things that go into that, but there needs to be a little bit more pressure put on these girls' fathers to say, it's not party time just because you turned 18. And I heard something very good this week where somebody used an analogy saying women start at the top of the mountain.
Absolutely.
And society deems how far they fall. Society will wait and see. Did you fall a little bit? Did you fall all the way down the mountain? All the way to the base, right? Men start in the valleys and we have to climb back up. And we are judged based on how high we can climb. So we're starting at opposite ends of this spectrum. And we have to find that middle ground. As the man's rising up and getting his money together and getting more educated and becoming a man and not a little boy, he's going to meet her somewhere along the way. But if a man reaches the top of the mountain, he's going to want a girl at the top of the mountain.
Yeah.
He's not going to want the girl that's fallen all the way to the bottom. So it's a balance of finding your partner at the same peak as you are.
Yeah. And, we might get the question, how does a woman stay near the top of the mountain? Okay, don't be a hoe.
That's number one.
Don't be a hoe.
Because every body and every person that you're racking up is going to make you lose value in the man you want's eyes.
Yes, absolutely, 1000%.
Yeah.
You're also opening yourself up for this trauma that women talk about having and taking on to another relationship.
That's
which
true.
Can, cause you to act a certain way or do a certain thing that will make you lose that man that you think is good. Mm-hmm. Hear it all the time, see it all the time. Learn what men want and how to do those things or fit into their lives that way. Learning how to cook is a fantastic way to start.
Yeah. Doesn't hurt.
Cook a mean steak.
I was just wondering. I don't know if they can hear from all the way over there. Different microphone on the camera. I mean, nobody's talking now, but I'm not seeing as many people.
But yeah, honestly, being chaste and knowing when to shut the fuck up will go a long way for a woman. I know I'm a dude and I don't understand the female experience fully,
right?
But it from comparatively speaking, it seems significantly like it seems textbook, right?
From the outside looking in, from somebody who tries to understand women as best as he can, because that's the only way I can get them.
Right.
I have to understand your logic, what you go through, and empathy in general towards you. Where it's not that way in reverse. Women don't really have to understand men because we're going to approach you regardless of you if you understand us or not.
True.
So we're not always playing on the same playing fields, and we've talked about this in an earlier episode of just double standards and things of that nature. We might have to reflect on that again in a future one and maybe add a couple to it and just go over it for newer people, because I don't think that ended up becoming a clip, any of those. So that might be something to think about. But the last part I had on this specific topic that ties into it and wraps it up is fear of commitment exposure to failed relationships and red flag discourse online contributes to hesitation. So breaking it down, fear of commitment because of failed relationships in the past, right? They've dated this guy. It didn't work. They don't want to do that same thing again. This guy got them knocked up. Now they got a kid. They don't want to get into another relationship with some guy again. They think they're all going to leave. They're all going to cheat. They're all going to this. Now they bring that baggage to the next relationship.
Yeah, that trauma we talked about, right?
Yep, exactly.
I think chronically being on social media has also just exacerbated the idea that misery loves company.
Yeah.
I can't tell you whether it be on Instagram or Reddit or wherever, I see so many older women tell younger women to leave the relationship they're in or to get that divorce or, focus on you, all this kind of crap.
Yeah.
Like, you're listening to women who are single and are miserable and, quite honestly, probably messed up in life. And you are following them down the rabbit hole, okay? All you are doing is one, ruining your own life, and two, you're allowing them to feel better about themselves because it's almost like justification in their actions because more people do it, right?
That's one of the things that I've noticed is women take advice from people who aren't in good positions. It's very strange. Stupid. Why would you listen to somebody who doesn't have their shit together or is single or has 2 kids already and single momming it and pushing 40 and like that? I understand that they've gone through it already and they're trying to teach you something, but they did it wrong.
Exactly. You should be talking to like Mother Mary over here who has a big family, has a good husband.
Doesn't make a whole lot of sense. I know you've heard this example in the past. I'm sure some of these guys have too. But if you have a person who's a self-made millionaire versus a trust fund baby on how to make money, which one are you listening to?
Absolutely.
The self-made millionaire, not the guy who's just handed a bunch of money because he was born into a rich family. It's the same kind of concept. Why listen to a girl who's losing everything or was just handed everything versus somebody who had to work for it, right? And by work for it, I mean was born pretty, has the pretty privilege, but didn't expose herself to the world in a way where she devalued that beauty, right? She's not shaking ass on the internet. She's not posting thought traps on Instagram. She's not on random yachts all over the world every weekend. All of these things are problematic behavior that take away from that God-given value, right? So it's like getting all your money up front and then just shitting it all away.
If any women listen to this and you are speaking to older women or you're looking for advice, if the first thing out of the woman's mouth is you should leave him or you can do better or anything to that sort, you're probably talking to the wrong person. And you should definitely take a step back and say, okay, what does their life look like? Should I be listening to this person? Do I want to end up like them? Do they actually look happy?
I would also throw this in there for women. It's hard to get advice from anybody because most other women are going to give you bad advice, but most other men are wanting to fuck you and also will give you terrible advice.
Yeah,
so
I agree with that.
Around the board, it's very difficult to find advice. The only person that's going to give you clear advice is a family member, a father, an uncle, somebody that you can trust and respect that's not trying to get in your pants and give you the real on what you should be doing in each situation. Or honestly, somebody, not to sound gloated, but somebody like us that's just going to tell you what it is, whether you like the fucking truth or not. Because I'm not trying to sleep with people. I'm not trying to get 100 million followers so that I can be some pimp daddy. That's not the goal here. The goal is to educate men on what the situation is in life, help people. And honestly, if I can save one or two women from going down the wrong path at the same time, that's great because they actually open their ears and listen without getting their feelings hurt. I mean, it's not the most friendly conversation to have. I understand that. Nobody wants to be belittled or told that they're doing something wrong, especially from some guy that they don't know who's trying to mansplain them, right? As they like to say. But you have to just sometimes say, does he make sense at all? Is anything that he's saying relevant to me?
They have to be taught to do that, though.
Yeah.
And that's probably going to end up in a clip, and that's going to sound really bad.
You
but
have
I
to
don't
be
care.
taught.
You have to be taught how to do. Well, you do. I mean, and
taught how to listen, or what?
Yes, and how to take criticism.
Yeah,
and that's just by far and large for the majority of women that doesn't exist in today's society.
I just don't think they grow up with it. Like,
well, that's what I'm
little girls aren't playing sports a lot of times. They're playing dolls or with house or something. You know, obviously some of them are as they age and go through the class, their grade school stuff. But
yeah, it's more outside influences that are doing it, right? Social media, other women,
right?
That's why the dad is so important, because a good father will instill that in you.
Yeah, I mean, you can look at the stats on that and all the kids that are single mother households and how fucked up the kids are.
Overwhelmingly end up a statistic again versus
guys in jail and
father house homes,
girls on poles.
Yeah,
I mean that's the end result of the majority of what happens there. I mean, there are exceptions to the rule, of course, but you know, it is what it is.
I know I say a lot of things on here that are kind of spicy, but I would find it more rewarding saving a female than I guess getting a dude to listen and pay attention, right? Because I mean, we're not the
Are you talking about the audience?
Yes.
Okay.
Because I mean,
yeah, I could see
men. It's
definitely harder to do.
Yeah. So like men, it's more so just understanding facts and the nature of things, right?
Well, men, it's a matter of setting aside their pride and understanding that they didn't know everything or they do need help and they do want to listen to somebody else. That's a lot of what it is. They like to be the cock of the walk and think that they already have all the answers.
But men are more likely to do that.
I mean, I can't tell you how many dudes that we have that follow us that are just think they're God's gift to women already. And they agree with us, you know, they're not haters or anything like that, but they, realistically speaking, I don't know if they can back up all of the bragging that they boast about. You see what I'm saying?
I mean, it's
all perspective.
You're on the internet.
Which just was what it is, right? Yeah. So how does this affect dating, right? More emphasis on mental health in relationships, I think, is the first one.
Which again is ironic because, like I mentioned earlier, women tend to be higher in neuroticism than men, and are very quick to disregard how a man feels in a certain situation.
Yep.
They're also more likely to gaslight you and try to use their feelings against you, against logic in a situation that you know is, you know, like you shouldn't go out that way, and they're going to try to tell you how they feel about it and how you're controlling and what's the word I'm looking for? You are crap. What's the word?
You're controlling. You're narcissistic. You're
like lack of confidence.
You're insecure.
Insecure. Thank you. I don't know why I couldn't think about that.
You're insecure with yourself. That's why you don't want me to wear this.
Which it's kind of funny. I can't remember the guy's name, and I didn't look at the study that he referenced. I just thought it was funny he was talking about that. Men were actually polled, And the overwhelming majority of men, it wasn't due to insecurities. It was due to external factors as to why they were less likely to mess with women who did things like that. You know, they went out clubbing a lot. They wore a lot of provocative clothing, things like that.
Because they're troublesome.
Yeah.
I mean, in general, I've explained it differently to different women over the years. One of the analogies that I've used is when you get into a relationship, I try as a man to make every decision that I make beneficial for the both of us.
Mm-hmm.
If it's not beneficial for the both of us, I have to reevaluate why I'm actually doing it, right? So if it's go to work, it's beneficial to the both of us. I'm making money to do X, Y, and Z, right? Whatever it may be. Now, if you're wearing a specific outfit that's going to make you feel good about yourself or make you enjoy your night or go to a specific spot with the girls, that's benefiting only you.
Right.
What is that doing to benefit us as a relationship? The only thing it's doing is putting you in a predicament where it could hurt the relationship based on the wrong guy getting the wrong signals from where you are or your attire.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Same thing with girls' trips, which has been a constant debate on our show here. It's if you go on a girls' trip, how does that benefit the relationship? It doesn't. The answer is it doesn't. Going on a relationship going on a vacation as a couple benefits the couple because it's a de-stressor for the couple. It gives you alone time. It lets you bond together more, reconnect maybe. There are a lot of possible perks there. Going on a single trip as a woman with just the girls, it doesn't help the relationship. It takes finances away from the relationship and uses them solely on you. It takes time away from the relationship and the responsibilities of whatever you're doing so that you can be gone for a week or a weekend. So you don't have any responsibilities and you leave it all on your partner, whether that's kids or XYZ that's going on around the house, right? It's just, and of course, we always talk about the possibility of going down the rabbit hole of something bad happening while you're on that trip, whether that's being attacked, being robbed, sexual stuff, right? All sorts of different possibilities that could happen. You're doing things that are putting yourself in a predicament, in a place for only negatives. There are no positives to the relationship. And if I'm wrong, this is out for you guys in the comments. Tell me one thing that the girls' trip brings that is a positive to the relationship as a whole that cannot be achieved by going on a trip together. Because I'd like to know.
It's just selfish, which kind of goes into the next point that I wanted to make.
Yeah.
It's so funny to me. You see it, tons of women ask that for emotional intelligence in a man.
I've heard that so much. It's ridiculous.
When they themselves most likely don't have emotional intelligence, right? How often do they make a choice that is only good for them, right?
They have been told so much, and I still hear it to this day, that women mature faster than men.
Well, that's just it. They've been taught that women mature faster than men. They've been taught that they are the ones who are emotionally in tune with whatever. They're the ones that they're taught that they are the nurturers. But here's the thing. Those are things that you have to work on. And men are taught that that's where we're lacking. So that's what we have to work on.
Right.
So what ends up being the case
it becomes a focus of ours.
Men come to the relationship and they can provide that emotional intelligence, right? Women will also talk about carrying the emotional labor in a relationship, but guys are more likely to do that for the woman. If there's like a death in the family or something bad happens, the man has to fight that back and be there for the woman, right? Make her feel comfortable, make her feel okay. Whereas if a woman is put in a stressful situation, she's more likely to lash out, right? Or use that against the man in some way, shape, or form, which is why men are taught not to show feelings in front of women.
True. Yeah. It's a very different way that we're brought up. And I think it's going to change, obviously, as the generational gap continues to go forward here from what it was 40, 50 years ago. But this is probably the last generation that had a bunch of dads that were just like, suck it up, boy, and grit your teeth and this and that. Like, I don't think I'm going to raise my kids like that. I think I'm going to be a little more understanding about what it is. And all right, I get it. You're allowed to cry once in a while. You're not a freaking robot. I understand.
Well, yeah, but at the same time, like if I have boys, they're going to be hard asses. They're going to be tough. I'm going to force them to be tough, right?
But that removes the emotional intelligence that we're just talking about.
No, it doesn't, because you can
or
so you can teach
or the
them,
nurturing.
You can teach, right? Right, but that's more so what the bomb's there for, right? But you can teach them.
But look at the women these days; they're not there for that anymore. That's what I'm saying. That's why I think they need to be all encompassing.
You can teach your children, that this is going to happen sometimes. It's okay to do it in certain times it's not. This is or is not a good time. If this is not a good time, dry it the fuck up and let's move on, right? Like, you have to learn that when the going gets tough, you have to get going. There's something to do here, right?
Yep.
I do with my nephews all the time. Like if they get hurt or something, whatever, I'll sit there and coddle them a little bit, but then it's like, okay, it's done. Quit crying, get on with it. Or like if they just throw a fit for no reason, I just immediately cut.
Well, I'm not saying just
quit crying, like
continue crying, unreproachable, and so they just keep going and going and going, and it's just all right. We get it. That's different. I'm talking about more like you don't have to be stern all the time. You don't have to not cry in front of people. I'm talking about a little bit more of that level. Like if something happens, like somebody dies in your family and you're a man, guess what? It's okay.
Well, yeah, it's okay, but you like cry by yourself or you cry to the homies. I genuinely think the only time the majority of men would be allowed to cry in front of their woman is like if their mom dies or,
somebody close like that.
Yeah. Or like a brother or a sister dies, right? Those are like the only times. Every other time you have to be that stoic rock because she's more than likely she's going to respect you less after that. She's going to see that weak moment in you and she's going to think about it.
I think the wrong girl will. I don't think if you have the right one, she would. I think it depends on how long you've been together too. If it's a newer relationship, I agree with you.
This sounds red pill.
Yeah.
I genuinely think that most women are like the average woman is touching the bottom of the barrel on that. And like the average woman is not a great woman anymore.
Interesting. Okay.
I mean, everything we see, everything we deal with, all the statistics that we research and look into, like I cannot tell you how many.
The average woman you're thinking is just off.
They're so off base.
I don't know if it's a majority. I don't know if I agree with you fully. I think there are a lot, but I don't think it's a majority.
Well, just like the majority of men are broke, probably an incel. Right.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if it's the majority, but I do know that there's a staggering amount of simps out there, and I see it every single day on the internet, no matter what type of comment group that I'm in, whether it's a picture, it's a video, it doesn't matter what group it is, what the comment is. We have to hit something on there or the stream's going to end. You got to drag the picture into the little thingy.
That's dumb.
I know, it's retarded after like an hour. And like make sure that you're still there.
Oops.
You got the microphone right in front of the camera.
That's fine.
You get it? Okay, cool.
Yeah.
All right. Dumb. I did that last time. I look, what the hell?
Get your shit together, TikTok.
I know. All right. Last couple points here. Changing dating trends and casual relationships. Slow dating and focus on self-improvement. This is things that are being affected in dating based on all those other stats that we've been reading. So it's changing dating trends. People are dating more slowly than normal. They're not jumping into things. They're not jumping into marriage, clearly. And there's a higher focus on self-improvement over relationship improvement.
Yeah, self-improvement. Self-improvement. More like racking up 50 bodies before...
I'm going to take the bodies thing out of it for a second and talk about... Something that bothers me about just normal conversation, and this comes from men and women these days, is the people that emphasize. I can't tell you how many times I've heard this on stupid shows and reality shows. And I'm finding myself, or nonsense like that, like where they're what.
You think you're taking bodies out of it, but that literally means you're going to be a hoe.
Well, for men too, is what I'm saying. Like I've heard that from men. Like they're going on a journey to find themselves. I'm like, what? First off, how weak-minded must you be that you're 20 to 30 something year old, whoever, and you don't know who you are. What have you been doing with your whole life? I don't understand how you can get to that point.
They've been drinking the Kool-Aid.
It's absurd to me. And the only thing that I can hear when someone says something like that is just cope. It's all cope. They're coping with whatever shitty decisions they've made. They're coping with whatever shitty predicament they're at in their life. All the poor decisions, they should have went left, but they went right. Whatever that is, it sounds like a way for them to say, the blame is not mine. I didn't know who I was. Now I'm going to figure it out and start over. Reset button. I found Jesus. Reset button.
That's mostly women.
Bro, it drives me crazy when you hear that stupid shit. All that proves to me is that you can't be trusted to make good decisions.
I agree with that.
That in itself, that comment is, I'm going to find myself, or I don't know who I am, or I'm going on a journey. You are back of the line. You're done. You're out. And any sane man or woman that hears that should react the same way. I don't want or have time to mess with your crazy baggage and whatever the hell you're bringing to the table.
Yeah.
It's a mess.
I definitely
call me in 7 years when you found yourself.
Yeah.
Fucking idiot.
It's like I see all these dating profiles. These women are, 27, 28 to 30, mid 30s. And they're still figuring it out.
Oh, it's too late, woman. Guess what?
That to me just screams, I'm a hoe.
That's like being in an escape room and not being able to figure it out and just starving to death.
That screams.
That's
to me,
what that is.
That screams to me, I'm a hoe, and now I'm looking for a dude to save me. But I'm not going to settle for the guy I should be with. I want somebody who I think is better.
The unfortunate truth of the world is everything has a time limit. Whether that's age, whether that's figuring it out. Everything has a time limit. There is no unlimited amount of time. That is the one thing that in the entire history of mankind, we have not been able to fix. Time, it will get everybody. It doesn't matter if you're a king, if you're a billionaire, if you're the best looking guy in the world, you're the Brad Pitt, you're the movie star, you're whoever. Guess what? Father Time is undefeated. Forever and ever. So if you don't realize that, and you are in these older age groups and you are still finding yourself single, I just started looking, I don't have a family yet, why don't they take me for how I am, my past doesn't matter, my body count doesn't matter, the list goes on, you are the problem. You don't understand that you had a finite amount of time to do something and you let it elapse. That's it. You're out.
You're the trust fund kid who blew his wad, and
now you got to figure it out again. And I agree, you got to figure it out again. But unfortunately, you don't get a redo. You don't get to start back at the beginning and still hope for the perfect prize at the end. Now you have to settle for what you can get.
Yeah, I definitely attribute slower relationships taking the back burner to easy access to sex on I'll say on both sides, between women feeling quote unquote empowered for sleeping with whoever they want, and it's hard to blame men for that. Maybe a small percentage of men, but it's hard to blame men for that whenever women are the ones who are responsible for sexual access.
I blame them. I do blame them. I would say it's a 70-30 split. I say 70% on the women because obviously at the end of the day, they're choosing to open their legs for certain people. That's why you're 70% of the problem.
30% because a dude invented feminism.
Well, 30% because the guys are empowering them to do that and be exceptionally choosy or continue to have bad behavior and then still give them access.
Yeah.
There should not be a single man that wants to date a girl on OnlyFans or some porn star or any of that stuff. If every one of them lost access to sex and dates all of a sudden overnight, they would finally realize their mistake.
I do
if the money dried up on OnlyFans and they just stopped making money and the millions stopped coming in and they're just like, holy crap, now my butthole's on the internet and I got no money.
So you're just saying for men as a whole to
it's their fault to
their standards.
Absolutely.
And hold women accountable.
Absolutely. And that's why it's 30% their fault, because they're pushing this narrative. We have too many dudes that are so thirsty that they're helping these girls do this, and they're ruining it for the other good guys. The ones that actually achieved something in life, that actually want to get a job, get a career, get a woman, start a family. You guys are screwed at the end of the day, because we got so many freaking bum ass dudes out here that just want to spend their $5.99 on the OnlyFans subscription each month, whack off to a butthole, and then sit in the fucking corner and just live in their trailer and not do shit. Like, I don't understand. Like, these guys are the problems. I'm going to tell you right now, if I was a hot chick, if I was born as a female, I'd probably be on OnlyFans. I'm not lying. Like, I understand the difficulty of having morals when I also have the access of millions of dollars at my fingertips because of how I was born.
Yeah, but you're selling your soul, right? You're trading long-term happiness for monetary value.
I understand. I'm just saying I understand both reasons.
Whereas in my family, growing up, having a family was very much prioritized.
Now, if I was a 40-pound overweight female and I can barely scrape by on OnlyFans and I'm only making enough to pay the rent, I would not be on OnlyFans. That's the difference. That's what I'm saying.
Right, but once you start, how do you stop?
Well, I wouldn't be on there ever. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
If I knew I was a 9 or a 10, like I was ridiculous, different, because I'd be like, I can make millions of dollars doing this. I get it. If I looked like some of these girls that are like the number one on OnlyFans girls, I get it. If you're an average ass chick and you just look like Stacy from Oklahoma and you're just some blonde girl with a little, picket fence body, bro, get your skinny ass off OnlyFans and go get a goddamn job.
So I agree with the second point you made. My counter argument to the first point about chicks who are like 9s and 10s.
Sure.
It's that much easier for you to find the guy that
or
you want to be with if you're not doing that shit.
I was going to say that.
Of your God-given looks.
That's kind of what I was going to say also is you have to market the fact of who you are and be realistic. If you're not a 9 or 10, you have to be realistic and say, I'm not a 9 or 10. I'm a 6 or a 7 as a female. That's probably one of the biggest things that you have to honestly do with yourself when you turn 18 through 21. Am I ridiculous or am I average?
And average is still pretty.
Pretty. It could be a very pretty girl, but I'm talking about a girl that, The Rock is going to find attractive.
Yeah.
Very different versus pretty, right? If you can pull a guy who's that and actually pull him to not just sleep with the guy, but actually be with the guy and take you on dates and, because of who you are and how you portray yourself, and great. That's your ticket. And it sounds bad because it's almost like I'm telling young ladies to market their sexuality in a way, right?
Well, you can market your sexuality and still do it in the right way.
Trying to think of how I want to say that.
You can do it in the right way, right? You can wear things that aren't revealing that still accentuate.
Yeah, but I'm saying, like, for the argument there, we're gonna get so many people that are just like, oh, you're telling them to just be stupid, this, and this, and just get a guy and not get education and this.
Most women are stupid. Most women don't need that college degree that they're getting. You need to be smart enough to educate your children, and that's it.
That's not wrong. You're not wrong.
And considering that men tend to occupy the extremes as far as intelligence goes, women are dumber on that.
This comes from a place, let me say, from a more genuine perspective. A piece of paper that you get as a degree does not mean that you are intelligent.
No.
And that's the biggest fine line where this kind of argument gets very convoluted, because we're not talking about you need to be stupid, don't chase the degree. I'm talking about don't chase the degree because it doesn't measure your intelligence. It measures your ability to sit in a classroom and write reports.
Your agreeableness.
Right. So that's kind of where that mindset comes from. So I just want to put that out there, that we're not telling a girl to be stupid. I want you to be educated, but you can educate yourself. You can read books. You can do all sorts of different things to be very educated and intelligent and make rational decisions. That does not require you to sit in a classroom and get a degree for a job that is going to be either useless to you if you find the right guy, or mundane and you're going to be depressed anyway.
Or like, if you really want to work and do something, prioritize your family and get the degree after. Like, if you have a good man who can afford it, why would he not give that to you, right?
That's true too. Take some online classes while the kids are in school or something.
Yeah, and wait till they're grown and don't need you anymore, and then you can do whatever crap you want to do. It's not a bad idea. It's not going to be It's not going to be easier the other
Yeah.
way around, where you get a degree, put off having a family, and then now, shit, I'm 30.
Yeah.
I won't date anybody under 5'8".
I mean, the requirements are ridiculous, but I think that's another episode.
I got 15 bodies.
Yeah.
But I want a guy who makes 6 figures.
I'm going to put this out there. This is going to you guys for the chat, for TikTok, for our stream, for our everything. This week, I want you guys to send me a list, men and women. I want you both to send me a list of your requirements to date somebody. What are your own personal requirements? I want to compile them, and we want to talk about them next week. I think that would be good. Compile a list of, these are men's requirements, these are women's requirements. Let's see if they meet in the middle, and maybe we can just eliminate, like, oh, they want a certain body count, they want a certain body. They want a certain age group, they want a certain age group, right? I want to see if they correlate, and I also want to see which list is longer. I have an idea, but let's leave it to the chat. Let's leave it to our listeners to, give it a fair shake, a fair perspective. The last question that we had here on our trajectory of to-do list today is, are traditional relationships evolving or disappearing?
Well, it depends on how you're defining a traditional relationship, right? So, yes, traditional relationships are evolving, right? It's just like how the dating scene evolves every 5 to 10 years, like we spoke about.
Right.
The dichotomy of what's considered a traditional relationship will change. What people define as a traditional relationship will disappear, but there is always going to be there's always going to be something that fits that traditional mold, right? A traditional mold being what is common to
you'd have to break down the word traditional, right? Traditional means basically old school, right?
So
is another word for it.
About like an old school nuclear dynamic where the man works, is the provider, is the head of the household, and the woman is the the nurturer and the homemaker, then yes, that will completely disappear. The only evolution to that would be where the man doesn't make quite enough money, so the woman has to work as well, and so then it's like, okay, I'm bringing this much to the table in terms of finances, so how much are you going to pick up the slack in other ways?
That's kind of where I was going to go with this. Was, I think, in my opinion, the traditional relationship is disappearing as we know it. What a traditional relationship in our minds is pretty much gone. There are always going to be outliers and exceptions, but for the most part, I think it's dead. What we are going to get instead is not only because of people's mindsets, but because of all of the technology that has come about in the last 50 years, from the internet, cell phones, cameras, like everything that we have has evolved significantly, right? To the point where, side context, but do you know why one of the main reasons the mafia lost so much of its power?
Surveillance cameras.
Yeah. Which proves my point. Technology is going to basically continue changing, and it's going to change the landscape of everything. So if we were talking not about relationships for a second, it's talking about traditional gang mentality or traditional crime lords. That's gone too. That the way that it was ran in the past can no longer be a thing because of technology's input, right? It has to evolve and it has to change. What we're going to see in the future, I think it kind of taps into what you're saying, is 100 years from now, we're going to think of whatever this is as a traditional relationship, because we're not going to even remember what it was prior to that, right? We're going to lose sense eventually over generations of what that even looked like, and we're just going to be used to the new norm. It's scary because here's one of those thought-provoking questions. Are we, I don't know if scared is the right word, but we'll run with it. Are we scared of what a new relationship is going to look like because we don't like it, or because it's not what we're familiar with? Do we actually not like it, or is it just uncomfortable and not the norm?
So the knee-jerk reaction is probably just because it's not normal.
Yeah.
So therefore it is uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
But
I guess from the men's perspective,
way that even for women, the way that traditional relationships go so much against, not traditional, excuse me, modern relationships are starting to go against biology so much.
That's why I'm wondering, does that mean because we're going against innate biology, or do we actually not like it?
Absolutely, yeah.
Or is it just something that we're going to get over and we don't like it because we're not used to it and it's uncomfortable? You see what I'm saying? Is it actually biology or is it not? I guess is the question.
So, one, I genuinely think it is rooted in biology. Science proves that.
Okay.
Two, that if not, then that completely invalidates what you said last week or a couple of weeks ago, where you talked about how there's going to be a swing back. We're going so far to this modern era that there's going to be so much backlash whenever the population's not replacing itself. We have too many single old people. It's going to swing back.
We'll swing back. It will just look different, right? Because we'll swing back in the fact that
there will be more concessions because they'll go, okay, if this is what's worse, we can deal with this.
We got to deal with this. We're going to start getting married. We're going to start having kids younger again like we were. But now it's going to be with modern technology. Now it's going to be with all of these other influences still. You see what I'm saying? Like, it'll still be different, but it will kind of swing back the other direction of this whole women empowerment thing kind of fucked us.
Unfortunately, we're probably getting into the era where I guess men and women both are just going to if you want that kind of happiness in life, if you want to be with a good person or try to find a good person, you're going to have to concede somewhere and put up with something along the line, right?
Yeah.
Unless you're just going to go to a third world country to find a partner. Speaking for men specifically, like unless you're just going to go to a third world country and find a partner where they're not tainted by technology and modernism. That's genuinely.
But it's all. I feel like everyone's going to change eventually once they catch up. It's just what I mean.
True, eventually, yes.
They're all not living in the woods. It's
But
they're all.
I mean, how long have basic household appliances been a part of the modern world, and they're still
not long enough. You'd be surprised.
But there are still dozens of countries that don't even have like basic shelter to the point or anywhere near the degree that we do.
We're talking, it could be 500 years before they catch up. And then they're still not going to be caught up. We're going to be that much farther ahead.
Right.
But they'll be where we are now. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, but
I get that.
Just the last couple points. We're going to just encourage you guys to give us some feedback this week. We kind of talked about that already. Give us some pointers on what are requirements that you look for. We'll add some of our own to that list as well. And then I did want to recap some of the main points here. So shifting priorities in romance, mental health awareness, digital age's role in dating. Give me your final thoughts on that, and then I'm going to read these couple of stats all together at once so that we can maybe get a conjoined clip of all four of them so we can kind of put it together and talk about it and then go from there.
So, I mean, they kind of all three go hand in hand, right? Priorities in dating are shifting, because of modern technology, right? Mm-hmm. And the whole women empowerment movement.
Yep.
And how mental health is being taught to be prioritized, right? So your happiness is more important than your responsibility, right? Your happiness is it's more important for, at least as a woman, it's more important for you to be happy
than almost even your entire family.
Right. Than your entire
family.
Screw
your kids, screw your husband, screw everybody else around you. If you're not happy, go ahead and leave, girl. It's ridiculous.
And that is exacerbated by technology because of how easy it is to communicate with people across the world.
Yep. That is very true. That's very true.
It also incentivizes men to look for sex only, which kind of goes hand in hand with this whole modern movement of women empowerment, because women are taught to, you go queen, you get that, you sleep who you want to sleep with. Like, almost,
okay, well then here's my penis.
Yeah.
Bye.
Like there's a reason. There's a reason why a male horse is called
the stud.
The stud, right? Men are called studs if they sleep with a bunch of women.
That's true.
It's because it's harder for us,
That's
right?
True.
So even if you're a woman and you live in an era where you think that, sleeping with a bunch of men is empowering, well, it's easy for you. You can talk to 10 guys and none of them are going to sleep with you.
The only person that's going to tell you that you're empowered is another whore.
Or a dude who wants to get in your pants.
Even that. I don't even know. That'd be a stretch for a dude to be like, damn, you slept with 150 people? High five, girl. Let me see what them draws look like.
You want to make it 151?
That's a stretch, I think, even for men. But God, if there's dudes out there that are doing that, you suck. You just fucking suck. There's no other way to put it. That's crazy. Like, nobody thinks that you're better. Like, your peers are gonna look at you weird.
Yeah, but you haven't told a hoe some BS so that you can get in her pants.
Of course, but not that. I would never say, hey, you just high five for sleeping around. Yeah, no, what the hell?
It's empowering for you to sleep around. You want to add another notch to that there post?
I'm so happy you are one of these independent women. That's so good for you. Let's just take it back to the bedroom and show me how independent you are.
It's like
what the fuck?
It's like talking to a child. Oh, that's so good. You're paying your bills. You're independent. Yeah. You want some deep?
You want some deep? All right. Let me read these stats real quick, and we'll just go with little rant on it, and we'll clip it and call it. So, just to recap, a couple of different stats here. Women are prescribed antidepressants twice as often as men. That stat comes from the CDC in 2020. 1 in 4 women aged 40 through 59 in the U.S. is on antidepressants. That comes from the National Center for Health and Statistics. In 2022, only 19% of young women 18 through 24 said that they saw marriage as a top priority, down from 35% in the year 2000 from Pew Research. And the U.S. marriage rate has declined by 60% since the 1970s, and that comes from the National Center of Family and Marriage Research. So real quick, thoughts on all those things combined. What do we determine the overall outcome here is?
The number of women in that bracket on antidepressants is going to, I'm going to say in the next 5 years, it's going to triple or more.
Okay. So your predictions is, I was just kind of saying, what does that correlate? That's showing me that if you don't prioritize marriage, having a family, and hit 40 through 59, you fucked up.
Yeah, you're going to be miserable.
Miserable on antidepressants, and just
you're going to be
the statistic. You're going to be the 1 in 4 women.
You're going to be the butt of a Simpsons episode.
In 20 years, Simpsons will still be running, and Bart will be 97, still look like a kid. And
they're going to be in the old folks' home. Why'd you cut your dick off?
Yeah,
I was young. It was a trend. It was the thing to do.
Unplug my headphones. Oh my god!
They still got pink hair, and it's all shaved weird, and they got all these weird tattoos. Miss Johnson, why do you sound like a man? Did you smoke? No, sweetie. I just got off my hormones.
Oh my god. That's a whole nother topic for a different day and a different episode we want to get banned on.
But it's gonna be the same thing with women not in relationships. They're gonna flood these nursing homes because they're too neurotic for their families to freaking deal with.
That's true.
Then, like, nursing homes that's already a business to get into. Like, if you want to invest in a company that owns old
nursing homes.
Yeah, old folks homes.
70-year-old ladies with blue hair.
I'm telling you, I see that because
no one's gonna want to work there.
Dude, they're starting to make a lot good, really good money.
They better get a raise. That's gonna be real rough.
I see the generations of women from like the 50s and 60s and 70s that are in there now. I guess not 70s, but 50s and 60s that are in there now. And I'm telling you, they are batshit crazy.
50s, 60s. Yeah.
They are batshit crazy. I cannot fathom what it's going to look like in 10, 20, 30 years.
Oh, it's going to be, yeah.
Or like when our generation's there.
It's going to be crazy. Crazy.
We're going to be hopping around. They're going to bring that Cialis every morning, and we're going to be hopping around. Blue Chew. When we go down the hall, I hear these dudes smacking their gums.
And you're getting empowered. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, boy. We live in a crazy world. All right. I think that's it.
Selling you got anything else? Empowerment, yeah.
To the people who leave us insane comments and argue with me on a daily basis, you people are ridiculous. Just want to point that out there.
Especially the dude who thinks the average woman can like fight a man. You are on some copium, or you're trying to get laid.
You're in the wrong comment section if you're trying to get laid. I'll just put that out there. Yeah. There ain't a whole lot of women in there.
No, but he's showing him like, look, oh my God, look at this guy.
It doesn't even make sense, the arguments. Like, and just for the viewers out there, I have a person who's been arguing with me that a majority of men are not physically superior to a majority of women. It goes against all biology, laws, physics, dynamics of society for the last infinite amount of years. It doesn't make any sense. I've told this person that there are exceptions. I understand that. He swears up and down that it doesn't exist, that we're on equal playing field, and that if a woman learns martial arts and a man learns martial arts, they're completely equal, and a female can do just as well as a man can. The logic, and I could not even, I pray that they are trolling to the best of their ability, because if not, this person is one of the most delusional people I've ever met in my entire life.
I genuinely just want to sit down and show them the highlight reels of Fallon Daniels' career and be like, hey, for those of you who don't know who Fallon Daniels is, they're a transformer who used to be a man and then they became a woman, and they couldn't even get on a pro card, and they went from going like 0-2
in MMA.
In MMA. They went like 0-2 in the UFC or Pride or
they
another
didn't make it to the UFC.
They didn't make it to the UFC.
No. UFC doesn't have Transformers.
It was a semi.
It was a small league.
They were like regional at least.
Yeah, it was like a, I don't know, FC championship or something like that. One of those type of things.
They transitioned and then started breaking women's faces. And
of course.
Like it's not even close.
Eventually it caught up to them when they took enough hormones, I'm sure, but they started losing. They got too old, right?
Yeah,
that's potentially part of it too. But yeah, when they first joined the women's league as a transitioning male, it was bad. It was really bad. Like, and this was a guy who could not even get into any of the pro leagues as a male.
It was just like the Olympics. Everyone watches the Olympics.
The swimming.
No, the dude that boxed those chicks.
Oh, yeah. That was like a year or two ago, right?
Yeah. And then the last Summer Olympics. And guess what? Yeah. So I had a Peacock subscription at the time. I wanted to go back and rewatch all that. They didn't have the replays online. You had to watch it live or you couldn't watch it.
Interesting.
They literally they took
it on the internet, right?
Yeah, they took them off. It was so funny because the Olympic community was trying to hide it so bad. They interviewed some of the women, like the woman who's a semifinalist after. She was just crying in the interview. She's like, I just had to give up because she's like, there's
I've never been hit that hard. Or
I've never been hit that hard. She's like, there's just no way that I can compete with this.
Yeah. Well, says it all.
Spicy.
We'll call it there. We will see you guys next week. Like, comment, follow us, subscribe. TikTok, I'm going to probably talk to you guys for a couple extra minutes here and just see what's going on with the comments and things over there. But otherwise, the recording stream, guys, we're out.
Words so sharp they cut the air. Confidence dripping heavy, I don't care. Speak like the boss on every line. Charisma blazing like sun in the sky. Undeniable moves they can't resist. This podcast got you feeling like you exist. Picking up the flow like I pick up the beat. Headphones on, I'm bringing that heat. Girl next door, yeah, caught her eye. She smiles back like, why even try? Speak like the boss on every line. Charisma blazing like sun in the sky. Undeniable moves they can't resist. This podcast got you feeling like you exist. Grab the mic, it's a whole new game. Show 'em so loud it drowns the shame. Words like magnets pulling the crowd. Speak like a king, make your mama proud. The power's in how I twist these lines. Every syllable a ladder I climb. The world's mine when I talk my talk. Swagger so heavy when I walk my walk. Speak like the boss on every line. Charisma blazing like sun in the sky. Undeniable